guys, back with another video. This is an intro. So I was supposed to receive my brackets for my new seats by FedEx today, but apparently it says they delivered them and that someone signed for them. Nobody was home, so it doesn't make any sense. So I had to file a claim with them and But so I went ahead and got started with the taking the seats out of the car, the factory seats. As you can see, it's not going as planned. I broke the driver's side bolt in the front. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just drill all the way through and just put a bolt all the way through and through the bottom like the same way the studs in the back are. Nope. Melted 4 drill bits, broke 2 drill bits, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go buy a $20 Milwaukee drill bit. Melted it in 10 seconds. I don't know what is underneath of the bolts, but it is not possible to drill through it. So I took my multi-tool and cut it out, and then I'll show you real quick here. Cut out the bolt that was there, and then came in here and welded in one of the factory bolts that I took off of the car when I was doing the restoration. I don't know where this thing went, but I ended up having I saved all the old hardware, so it was about the same length as the studs in the front, so ripped up the carpet and welded this in. So yeah, been having tons of fun. All right guys, so followed up with FedEx and no luck. They gave me a name, and just so happens that a person with that name lives on my street, and I went and asked them, and they're like, no. I'm like, well, they said you signed your name, and they're like, no. So you know, there's dishonest people out there. I guess they needed those brackets to mount some seats as well. So I'm not gonna let that bother me. What I'm gonna try to do is use the factory brackets and see if I can modify them to mount up to these seats. There's the factory power seat right there, and right now I'm seeing what I can do about mounting it up to these sliders here, because my power seat does move up and down, but it doesn't move back and forth. So I can keep the up and down power and then move it back and forth with the slider here. So that's the plan. I'm gonna tinker with it a little bit, and if I end up figuring anything out, then yeah, we'll just move forward with it. All right guys, so I think that I'm onto something here. This is the factory driver's seat, the power seat, and I'm trying to get it hooked up to the slider here on the racing seat that I purchased. And inside the track of the racing seat there are holes, so I slid a bolt through, put a nut and a lock washer on it, and it just barely fit on both sides. So this is looking good. I got the front bolted in, so I'm gonna go ahead and in theory I should be able to pull this slider and lift the whole assembly up, and that's gonna expose this part up here so that I'm able to get to the holes inside of here. And when I do that, I can drill through that hole, through this aluminum here, and then sink another bolt through it, and then I think that's it. I was stressed about this and stressed about my seats not showing up, but hell, this seems simpler than trying to mess with brackets, and I get to keep the factory power. Now, the passenger is going to be a little bit trickier. I have the passenger bracket sitting down on the driver's side, and you can see it's 2 separate pieces. So I don't think that that's going to work the same, because we're going to have issues with everything lining up. So I'm thinking what I may do is bolt everything down, that way the brackets are where they're supposed to be, and then weld a bar from one side to the other. That way it stays solid, just like this whole assembly for the power seat does. So I'm gonna quit yapping, and I'm gonna lift this up and see what I can do with those back bolts. Yeah guys, so I'm a clean freak, and this car unfortunately, one of the previous owners was a smoker of the blunts. I found like the top of a blunt wrap thing underneath the seat under the carpet, and then I took the vent off and there was like tar inside of it, like disgusting. And the carpet had some stains like underneath the seats, like they'd like spilled drinks or something. So I went ahead and got my shampooer and shampooed both sides where the seats are going to be sitting, because there's no better time to get that carpet clean under there than when the seats are out. So I went ahead and did that. Most of it came out. It still looks kind of dingy. Carpet isn't a priority for me right now because it looks pretty good. But in the future, I do want to get the brand new saddle collared carpet with the extra padding underneath. So, but I just wanted to mention that. I put some Lysol all-purpose cleaner down in it and scrubbed it, and then went back over it with the solution that I mix up in my shampoo here. It's like Fabuloso, the purple stuff that people use to clean like hardwood floors. I put like 2 ounces of that and then mix it with hot water, and that's pretty much the solution I use for cleaning carpets. It comes out really well, doesn't bleach anything or anything like that, and it gives it a nice lavender scent. But I'm gonna get back to getting the seat mounted on here. As you can see, I got the new holes drilled here, so this should mount right up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this bracket on the bottom of the seat and see if we can fit it in the car. I may be one of the only people in the world that has a power aftermarket racing seat in an SN95. I used the factory power seat bracket and mounted it right up to this racing seat. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get it on there and then show you what it looks like. All right guys, so I got the bolts in the bottom, and then I drilled the holes in the factory bracket for the top and got them both mounted. So now, as you can see, slides right down. So I'm gonna set this down in the car. It's gonna be very tricky to bolt it back down because this power seat, it does not move forward and back. It only moves up and down. So it's gonna be like, it was almost impossible getting the bolts out of the back because you know, you gotta like angle them and stick them down in there. So let's see how this works out. I'm hoping that everything works out here, but I'm gonna go try to get it in the car right now. So I pulled the power seat controller out, and I'm gonna have to hook it in here and then I'm gonna have to figure out some way to mount this thing, but I'll probably just put it to where it's out of sight, and when I need to move the seat, I'll just reach under there and go up or down. I mean, you know as well as I do, you don't move the seat very often, so I can just use this to adjust it to the height that is most comfortable for me, and then kind of tuck it out of the way or unplug it and, you know, just keep it in the garage for if I ever need to adjust it again. All right guys, so this was not easy whatsoever. As you can see, like I said before, the power part of my seat that goes forward and backward is broke. So in order to get these bolts in the back, it's very tricky. But once you get you gotta like kind of hold the seat up in the air and then get like the first thread started, and then you can get a ratcheting wrench down on it. Yeah, I got the seat in. It feels great. I'm gonna get it bolted down and then see how it feels once I sit in it. All right guys, so now in theory, I've got this power seat module hooked back up to the wires under there. So my racing seat, you can see I can move it forward and backward with the slider. Now let's see what it'll do with the power. Yes, yes, and we're going up and down. And another thing that I really like about using this factory power seat bracket is you can retain all of that factory plastic that covers up the rails and everything. That way everything's still out of sight. I still got to put the rest of the plastic on, but I am ecstatic with how this turned out, considering somebody decided to steal and keep my racing brackets, and I just got aggravated and decided to try this. I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. So I just need to find a really cool place to mount this up, or I may just tuck it under the seat, because like I said before, I ain't gonna use it very often, but I can't express enough how happy I am with this. I've got everything apart because I want to rewire the wires in there. Whoever did the stereo wiring, they did wire it correctly so that it uses the Mach 460 amps, but they used black tape to wrap all the wires. So I'm gonna go through and connect them properly. And coming soon, I'm probably going to be putting some subwoofers in the back, the way we can get a little bit of bass with our music. Hey, so I wanted to go over a couple things that have been updated since my most recent video. I did do a couple things that I didn't video. I probably should have, but one thing that I did in the fender well of the SN95s, there is a charcoal canister. It's like a emissions device. You can see that big black box right there, and the tubing for it, what it does is it like the fuel vapor from the gas tank, it like keeps it from like just leaking out into the air. So it like stores the fuel vapor and then vacuums it into the intake when you start the car. And the tubing on them dry rots, and like this was like, I don't know if you can tell how bad it is, but it just like, it feels like it's like about to crumble into dust. So I replaced that with some vacuum tubing, 7/32 vacuum tubing. I don't know if it's hard to find around you, but most part stores don't have tubing in stock. Another thing that I did, I went ahead and got an Optima red top battery. It is a lot more powerful than what the car calls for. The car calls for like 550 cold cranking amps. This one has 800 cold cranking amps and 1,000 regular cranking amps. And I also went ahead and got brand new terminals, and I also bought shims so that I don't have to crank the terminals down so tight that they're like squeezing together. You put them shims on there and you can tighten it down, and it's nice and snug, and it's not like about to break the terminals. So really happy with the power from the Optima battery. I mean, it's twice as powerful as what I need, but that's going to be perfect for when I decide to put a system in the car. There's a Kenwood head unit in it, so I'm thinking I will get a Kenwood subwoofer. They're actually on sale right now at Best Buy, so I think I'm gonna get a Kenwood 12 and then buy a box from like Amazon or Walmart and put it together and custom make it, and like mount it to the back of the back seat that folds down. In my old car, I found that if you have the subwoofers in the trunk facing the rear, the sound is a lot deeper and a lot better. I used to run 212s in my car when I was younger, but now that I'm a little bit older, I don't think I need quite that much. Holy shit. Do you see that fucking spider? What the fuck? I just had this tubing in my hand. Where the fuck did that come from? Anyways, yeah, I think I'm just gonna run 112 and get like a 400 or 500 watt amp. That way I got a little bit of bass in the music that I'm playing. So yeah, I'm very happy with how this install went. For the passenger seat, those brackets, they're separate. So if I go trying to mount them, like, there's going to be like issues with them lining up and stuff. The only way it would work is if, like I said before, I put them down on there, bolt them to the car, just the bracket, and then weld them together with some steel, and then take the bracket back off. That way it's one solid piece, and then fab it up like I did here on the driver's seat. But since it's not power, I don't think I'm gonna do that. I think I'm just gonna wait for FedEx and eBay to, you know, get to the bottom of this. But yeah, the car's coming along great. I'm super happy with everything. I think one thing that I'm gonna do in the near future is the Envoy fog light mod for these cars, the Cobras specifically. As you can see, the fog lights in these cars don't really fill out the circle, but if you get the fog lights from a 2002 to 2007 GMC Envoy, they're a lot brighter, and they fit in the mounting brackets for the Cobra, and they fill out that hole perfectly. Another thing that I purchased, there's going to be a lot of haters on this, but I like it. My original car, I had a front license plate, and I love the way it looked. I'm going to get like a chrome Ford racing one. But as you can see, my bumper has holes in it. So I bought the actual Ford officially licensed bracket that mounts on here. So I'm going to mount that up and get me a nice front license plate, either a Ford Racing or like a SVT or something like that. But yeah, if you like what you saw, leave a like, comment if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them and help. And lastly, subscribe to the channel. It means the world to me if you subscribe. And whether you subscribe or not, I'm still going to be here in the garage making videos. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks.